Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban raised the prospect of further actions against Ukraine on Friday, a day after he doubled down on his veto against the European Union's €90 billion loan.
Magyarországnak Ukrajna olajblokkádjának letörésére nem csak a 90 milliárdos hitelblokkolás van a kezében. Nekünk vannak más eszközeink is. 40%-a ukrán villamos energia ellátása Magyarországon keresztül megy. Ahhoz még hozzá se nyújtunk. Folyamatosan új szankciós csomagokat akarnak bevezetni, az egyhangúságot igényel. Majd nem adjuk meg. Hasonlóképpen a következő 7 éves költségvetésben Ukrajnának pénzt akarnak adni. Majd nem hagyjuk jó. Azt akarom mondani, hogy rengeteg kártya van a kezünkben. Szerintem nem érdemes kötözködni Magyarországon.
Tensions between Hungary and Ukraine have escalated in recent weeks into a bitter feud over Hungary's access to Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline, which was damaged in what Ukraine says was a Russian drone strike. Orban, however, insists that Ukraine has purposely sabotaged the pipeline to orchestrate an energy crisis ahead of a tight election. EU leaders rebuked what they called unacceptable behavior by Hungary akin to blackmail following an EU summit on Thursday, accusing Orban of holding up critical aid and undermining EU decision-making in an effort to win an election at home.
Israel and Iran traded airstrikes early Friday in the midst of a war that has sent shockwaves through the global economy and risked drawing Iran's Arab neighbors directly into the conflict. The exchange came as millions of Iranians observed Nowruz, the Persian New Year holiday and tradition dating back millennia. As Israel pounded Tehran with airstrikes, activists reported hearing strikes around the capital, Tehran, and many Iranians stayed indoors, abandoning the usual travel or gatherings this year. In Israel, local media reported blasts across Jerusalem with sirens and booms sounding across the city. The new attacks came a day after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to refrain from more strikes on a key Iranian gas field.
Israel acted alone against the Slawiya gas compound. Fact number 2, President Trump asked us to hold off on future attacks, and we're holding out.
Meanwhile, Iran stepped up its attacks on its Gulf neighbors, with the United Arab Emirates UAE reporting heavy explosions in Dubai early Friday as its air defenses intercepted incoming fire over the city. Authorities in Kuwait reported 2 oil refineries on fire, and Saudi Arabia said its Samref refinery in the Red Sea port city of Yanbu was hit. Iran's attacks, which it calls, quote, retaliatory, came as Muslims observed Eid al-Fitr, the end of the holy Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, and mosques across the Middle East made their first call to prayers.
The International Energy Agency is urging governments to take measures to reduce oil demand. They are calling on governments to push remote working, encourage people to take public transport, limit car use in major cities, and reduce speed limits. The agency also suggests that cutting back on air travel where alternatives are available could help significantly. Since the United States and Israel launched military strikes against Iran at the end of February, oil prices have surged above $100 per barrel. Analysts speculate that these prices could even double if the situation does not de-escalate. Last week, the IEA agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil from emergency reserves, but officials warned that the world cannot rely on this supply alone to stabilize markets. The agency said the resumption of transit through the Strait of Hormuz is now the single most important action to return to stable oil and gas flows.
Every day of war with Iran stops international tourists from spending €550 million in the Middle East, according to the World Travel and Tourism Council. Many are now looking to Europe as a safe destination. WTTC estimates that the Middle East accounts for 5% of global international arrivals and 14% of international transit traffic. Hence, the blow to tourism in the Middle East opens up both an opportunity and a risk for Europe to absorb some of this flow of travelers. One of the competitive advantages of the European continent is security, according to the CEO of the European Travel Commission. Mediterranean destinations, particularly Spain, would be some of the main beneficiaries of this situation, he said. In addition to that, Europeans might choose to spend their holiday closer to home rather than traveling long haul if flight routes become longer or more expensive.
Denmark and its allies reportedly deployed troops to Greenland in January because they feared a U.S. invasion, Danish broadcaster DR has reported. DR said it had seen a military operations order dated the 13th of January, which served as the basis for the deployment of Danish forces in the autonomous Danish territory as tensions spiked over U.S. President Donald Trump's bid to annex it. The document described an operation organizing the defense of Greenland immediately after the U.S. operation in Venezuela to oust President Nicolás Maduro. In January, several EU nations, including France, Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, and others, sent troops to Greenland under a Danish-led NATO exercise dubbed Arctic Endurance. But several military officials told DR that it was a real deployment and not an exercise. Trump has repeatedly said he believes the U.S. must control Greenland to ensure its national security, and long refused to rule out the use of military force to get it. After several intense weeks of aggressive remarks that plunged the alliance into its deepest crisis in years, Trump backed down from his threats in late January, announcing that he had reached a framework agreement on Greenland with NATO's Secretary General, the details of which remain vague.
The French Navy intercepted and boarded a tanker in the Mediterranean Sea on Friday. President Emmanuel Macron said it is linked to Russia's sanctioned Shadow Fleet, which ships oil in violation of international sanctions over Moscow's war on Ukraine. The tanker Dana is suspected of operating under a false flag designation. The interception took place in the Western Mediterranean and was carried out in cooperation with allies such as the United Kingdom. The tanker was diverted and escorted by the French Navy to an anchorage point for further checks. The case was referred to a prosecutor in the port of Marseille.
The teenage daughter of North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un was seen driving a tank alongside her father during a military drill. In footage released by state media, Kim and his daughter are both dressed in black leather jackets they are often seen wearing. The girl appears to be driving the tank, with her head sticking out from the hatch. Kim, on the other hand, is sitting on top of the tank, smiling and surrounded by other soldiers. The latest footage adds to speculation that Kim's daughter, who is reported to be aged around 13, is being groomed as his successor. In recent months, the teenager has been frequently seen accompanying her father at high-profile military events, including at weapon tests, military parades, and factory openings.
Two of the world's largest bot networks were shut down in a major international operation. German, US and Canadian cybercrime specialists joined forces to dismantle Aisuru and Kimwolf, suspected of being behind major online attacks. A botnet is a network of computers or connected devices that have been infected with malware and are controlled secretly by an operator who uses them for malicious purposes like attacks or data theft. Aisuru consisted of a network of several million compromised online devices, such as routers and webcams, according to a statement. The Kimwolf botnet involved several million infected devices, primarily Android TV boxes. Two suspected administrators of the networks, who reside in Germany and Canada, have been identified and now face legal consequences. The cyber criminals extorted their victims, who in some cases suffered losses of tens of thousands of dollars.
Dozens of beloved dogs and cats arrived in Athens alongside their owners on a special repatriation flight for Greeks with pets who had been stranded because of the war in the Middle East. Heartwarming scenes unfolded at Athens airport as the adorable animals excitedly leapt about after being released from their carriers. Pet owners were extremely emotional.
To me, my pet, my cat is my family. There is no chance I'm going to leave him behind. And right now, the airlines that serve the United Arab Emirates is they don't accept pets because of the situation. They don't accept pets in cabin, and they didn't accept pets in cargo. There are limited spots for pets in cargo, and they only opened that late last week, so it is very, very difficult to fly out the country with your pets.
The flight had been delayed for several days due to drone attacks near Abu Dhabi airport. In the end, it departed with 101 passengers and 45 pets on board.
Τα ζώα μας δεν είναι αποσκευές, είναι μέλη των οικογενειών μας και αυτό η ελληνική κυβέρνηση σήμερα το έκανε πράξη. Ζώα και άνθρωποι ήρθαν στην Ελλάδα με ασφάλεια.
French archaeologists have discovered 5 new Gallic-seeded burials at an excavation site in Djon town center. While barely 75 skeletons in this position have been found anywhere in the world, the latest discovery brings to 20 the number found in the city, famed for its mustard. All contained men seated facing west and devoid of any personal belongings, except for a black stone armband that helped date their deaths. 18 such graves were found near or beneath the asphalt of the playground at the Josephine Baker Elementary School in Djon. Over the past 30 years, the city of Djon has become accustomed to finding traces of the Gaulish people in its subsoil. It remains to be seen what the significance of this type of burial might be: sacrifice or honor, the killing of enemies. For now, archaeologists are not favoring any particular theory.